Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we have a special guest, as you can see on the screen. Before I introduce him, I just want to give a couple of quick disclaimers. In this video, I'm going to be interviewing Jay, who has been a member of my program for the last about 4 years. We'll get into the details. And he'll just be talking about his experience selling on Amazon, his progress, any goals that he has. So this should be a really good video for anyone who is starting out and kind of not knowing what to expect. You'll get a perspective from a successful Amazon seller. And with that being said, we're gonna jump right in. If you guys do like this video, I would appreciate if you could subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Leave any questions that you have down below, and we'll just jump right in. There's gonna be a little transition, and then we'll go. Okay, perfect.
Boom.
Hoo-cha. Okay.
Excellent. That was flawless.
If you weren't here, I would do it again, but I'm not gonna do it. Okay. All right, y'all. So we are here with Jay, and instead of me telling you about him, I will let him introduce himself. But I will just let you know that we met in college. We went to Rutgers in New Jersey, and yeah, that's how we initially met, but we didn't really know each other like that. So I'm gonna pass it to Jay. He'll introduce himself and we'll go from there.
Hey everyone, my name is Jay. As Abby spoke about before, we definitely met at Rutgers. I'm based in New Jersey. I saw Abby, start kicking off with her Amazon success pretty early, and I was one of the first few people to really be like, hey, I really want to, get along with the whole online business journey. And I just decided to just go for it. About 4 years ago, I'll never forget, it was January 1st, 2020 is when I bought the course. And I was like, I'm going to be heavily invested into it and give it my all. It was my first time even getting a course, first time I ever purchasing a course like that. And I was, like a little skeptical, like most people when they first start off, but then, I seeing her being successful, and also, her coming from such proximity for me in the same school, I was like, if she can do it, why isn't that, I can do it as well too. So I decided to trust her and trust her coaching. And, here we are now where I do Amazon full time. I help coach in her course as well too. So it's been a blessing these past 4 years, and that's kind of where I am now. I was right where a lot of people are first meeting you, first start off. So it's great to kind of see, how the progression comes along after year after year. And yeah, I'm just happy to just be able to share my experiences with everyone, and also just, be able to give back however I can.
Awesome. So I've got a question a little previous to the Amazon stuff, because obviously we both are Amazon sellers. And if anyone here has watched any of my other videos, they kind of have maybe a little bit of an intro to Amazon as a business. But I want you to take us back to prior to Amazon. Let's call it right after college. What did you think you were going to be doing, and what did you start doing before you decided that you were gonna start on Amazon?
Yeah, that's a good question. I graduated in 2016 with my undergrad in public health. So initially I thought I was going to get into the sciences, probably do, I don't know if you remember this too, you were in Eli Lilly, and I was trying to get into the pharmaceutical sales space because we're both into Telefund, and I was kind of salesy, but still had a science background. So I thought I'll get into that, and I was trying to break into that industry, which is also tough to get into. So I didn't have much success trying to get into that. And then when I didn't find a good job immediately after college in 2016, I just did what a lot of people do, is run to a master's degree program. Hopefully that will work out for me. So I did that from like 2017 to 2019. So I spent 2 years getting my master's in healthcare administration. And then even after that, it was like, it still wasn't, anything lucrative or popping off for me job-wise. So in 2019, I still wasn't satisfied with my job. I ended up getting some, it was a Fortune 500 company. It wasn't really amazing, and the salary was around like 55K. So I was really disappointed in just like my job and the outlook of my life, honestly. So I was just trying to figure out what I needed to do to put myself into give myself the life I wanted. So that's what my life was like before I got into Amazon. I was really just trying other things to get more money, get more of a stable income, but just wasn't really working out for me.
Okay. It's
And I
funny
feel like
that
a lot
you
of people
say,
can relate, when they first graduate. But yeah,
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely very relatable. And I think about my time at Eli Lilly, like you mentioned, in pharmaceutical sales. My starting salary was also 55K. And at the time, I'll be honest, it felt like a good salary to me because obviously I'm straight out of college. I'm used to making an hourly, amount. So to go from that to a salary, I, really felt like it was an upgrade. But as I started to work and I was living in New York, really high cost of living, it just didn't go as far as I thought it would.
Right.
And I relate a lot to what you're talking about as far as the dissatisfaction. Like there has to be more. Like I can't live my life off of, this income and really have the stability that I'm looking for. But you did mention that you were doing a few other things to try to like, I don't know, make more money or kind of increase your quality of life by making more money. So what were, if you don't mind, what were some of the things that you
Yeah.
did? Like,
Gladly. So I remember learning about being introduced to Shopify drop shipping, and that was kind of like hot back then, just trying to like, create a quick website. And it was I created a website on Shopify, had like 4 random products and was like, all right, sales come in. And I'm like, all right, let's go.
it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, right. Had like a bunch of this random assortment of items, a random website. And I was like, why am I not making sales? I'll send it out to my friends, and it would just be very, very fruitless looking back. So I did that, and as well as I tried stocks, looking back, very short-sighted, just trying to like make money fast. And I did stocks, ended up losing like 2,000, and I was like, well, this sucks. So yeah, those are my 2 endeavors before I got into Amazon, just Shopify and drop shipping, and then stocks.
Okay. We actually have never talked about that, I don't think. And we have a lot in common as well. I tried Shopify. And I think what's important about starting a business and just kind of being in those beginning stages is that level of understanding of what it's going to take to actually make the money that you're envisioning. And the biggest part of
100%.
that I experienced and what I see, obviously talking about this, teaching it, is not really understanding where those sales are going to come from. Like who's actually going to be buying this product that you're putting your time, your energy into creating and marketing, who's going to buy it, and what is going to be your approach to getting that visibility that's really needed for that initial traction to build the momentum. And we'll get there, but I just thought about it as you were talking about, like, you made the website, why is no one buying it? Why am I not making $10,000 in a month? But it's because you have no customers, and it's not something that you think about. You focus on the things that you think are important, which is getting a good product and getting a good website. But really what it comes down to is having customers. Like it doesn't go
Right.
It can't go further if you don't at least have the customers. And I think that's why Amazon has worked out so well for the both of us. But we'll get there, just popped into my mind. Okay, so that's good to know. Before you got to the point of selling on Amazon, you did try a few other things and nothing really worked out. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, or those beginning stages of your journey? You were still working at your 9 to 5, and then you were starting with Amazon. So what was that like for you in those initial days and weeks?
Yeah, that was during that time. I'm glad we revisited that, because I feel like that was very instrumental in my growth, because I was able to quickly see that failure and understand what it takes to be successful. So that allowed me to be more comfortable committing myself to something longer term. And it reinforced my seriousness to be like, okay, I really want to do this, even though it might have failed the first time. I'm willing to do this again because I know that it's possible, and also that I want this for myself. So I was way more committed the second time around because I had failed on my own. So when I first started off January 1st, 2020, I still keep going back to that date because I was still working. It was around winter, so I was still working full time at that job. And the job I was working at was like a management program. So it was like a rotationary. So every so weeks it would be different. So I remember the first few weeks I was working almost like a graveyard shift. So it was really weird. So I remember just first off finishing the course in like 2 weeks because I really wanted to hit the ground running fast and not lose that momentum, because when you're first compelled to invest in a program, that's when you're the most enthused. So I think most people should definitely act on that immediately and start really learning the process fast. So I was very disciplined and hard on myself, because I wanted to make sure that I recoup that money in that investment. So I decided to really learn the entire course within like 2 weeks or so. And I wanted to begin my product research. So I remember after every shift at work, I would I'll take a few hours to just relax, and maybe even if I end up falling asleep, I would always make sure that I would wake up in the middle of the night and knock out at least 3 to 4 hours to really show my dedication and seriousness to myself. Like, as long as I made a contract with myself. And even saw like it kind of reminds me of this one video I saw about Kobe Bryant, how he was like, he had a boot camp for the summer, and he told himself, he made a contract with himself that, this is what we're committing to, and this is what we're going to stick to. And you have to really do that, really push yourself to the next level. So I remember just being very, very consistent the first few months, because I wanted to prove to myself that I was serious, and give myself the best foot forward. So I was coming back after work, just studying. And then after I studied, I would apply by doing heavy on the product research the first month. So that's what my day would look like coming back from work. Just, and I felt like also for me, it was like a very private thing. I didn't want to really tell anyone about it. I really want to explain too much until I had a proof of concept. So that even pushed me even further to hurry up and see results, because that's when when people were asking, what are you doing? What's that? I'm like, I'll give them one-liners and just, focus on, making it real within my own reality first. So that's definitely was my mindset back then.
I think that's such an important piece going into it, where you really had that attitude of, I'm going to make this work no matter the cost. And it takes a lot to be able to do that, especially when you had those experiences where it didn't necessarily work out and you recognize that you had to do something different. So you committed yourself, you kind of doubled down, and you got the education piece as well, because it sounds like, you were just kind of going through it, trial and error. Let me figure it out. Let me see if I can do the stock thing. Let me see if I can do the drop shipping thing. And so to be able to recognize, like, okay, maybe it's not even the business model. Maybe drop shipping would have worked if you would have known what you were doing. And I'm a big believer that it's the combination of the hard work, but then also knowing what you're doing and knowing the processes. And so I think that being able to pivot like that is a really good sign, especially early on in your journey as an entrepreneur, to be able to recognize, like, okay, this didn't go right. What can I do differently to get a different outcome the next time that I try? So I want to commend you on that. And I think that that's something everyone can learn from, myself included, is like, make a change if it's not going to work and you've already experienced a failure, which really isn't a failure. It's just kind of the buildup, but you have to have that bigger vision. If you look small, then yeah, it looks like it just didn't work, but it was just a piece of the puzzle. And here you are now. So
heavy on that. Yeah. Heavy on it's part of the steps to success, because even like, it's funny, we talked about the Shopify that failed, because even in the future, I still revisit a Shopify and now it works for me, and even stocks too. So I feel like everything that people think is a failure is really just a step to finally reaching that point of success. And people have to shift their mindset in that aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's good to know. So I've got a million questions, and because our audience and the people watching right now are not super, informed about Amazon, let's kind of start a little bit at the basics. So when you were initially thinking about your brand or whatever product you were going to sell, what did you consider? And did you focus on things that you liked and that you were interested in? How did you kind of start that process of product research?
Right. I feel like initially, like most people, you tend to just go towards things that you're kind of familiar with. And that was kind of what I started off doing. But I quickly realized that I had to kind of let go of that, especially with the business model that Amazon is, and try to focus on just profits first. I think even now to this day, I try to just use that as my compass and just look for products that are viable in terms of what the course tells you, right? And the parameters that you set for what an ideal product is what I decided to start, focusing on, versus the products that I have affinity to, or I'm just, that I'm just usually around or aware of. So I think at first I was trying to pick, like, for example, my first ever product that that I got a sample from that didn't really work out was like I don't know if I can even say this on the thing.
I feel like I know what it is.
It was like a, yeah, it was like a grind. It was like a, it was like a grinder. It was like it's called a stash box.
Yes.
A stash box, right? So it was like that, and it was because back at the time, I was young in college, so that was a vibe back then. So that was my first product, and thank God I didn't go through with it. I mean, the only reason I didn't go through it because the numbers looked good, but it's just that the sample didn't really come out the way I wanted it to. So I decided to just not go for that. But it's just interesting that kind of shows you like how like you go for things that you kind of are related to. So that was my first ever like attempt at a sample. But then after that, I was like, okay, let me just expand my horizons and try not to limit myself in a box of just the things I know. And that's when I started becoming a lot better at product research and finding good leads. And I was able to have like a good 3 or 4 potential leads before I narrowed down to my first product.
Right. Okay. And I think that that's how it goes for a lot of people, is just what things do I use? And honestly, it's not a bad place to start off, but you said something really important about not limiting yourself to just the things that you know, the things you're familiar with. And, just keeping a really open mind when it comes to product research. You never know what you're going to find that has great numbers. And if you guys are wondering, like, what's great numbers? What are you guys talking about? There's tons of videos here on my channel that go over product research and what you should be looking for. And all of that is to point you in the direction of something that will be viable and profitable. And those are really the most important things to search for outside of, picking a product in a niche that you really enjoy, or, something that maybe is inspired by a certain aspect of your life. That's great if the numbers match, but if the numbers don't match, you really have to be able to compartmentalize and recognize that you're doing this business to make money and it might not be the thing that you love, and that's okay. At the end of the day, what you're really trying to use this Amazon business for is that cash flow. Whatever it is you want to do with it past that, that's up to you. Do you want to start another business? Do you want to go on vacation? Do you want to pay your debt? Do you want to save for a house? Whatever it is you want to do, it's going to require money. And so if you just kind of look at your Amazon business as a vehicle to get to that point where you have the cash for the things that you actually care about, then you can start to detach a little bit from these products, because everyone thinks that their first product is going to be like it for them, and they're so obsessed with the idea. And who knows, in 6 months, you might not even be thinking about that product. You might never even launch that product. You might never make a penny from that product. So you don't want to put your whole heart and soul into every single product. You really have to focus more on the numbers. And that's really an important aspect of being a successful Amazon seller, is letting the data lead you. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. Okay, so that's good. So tell us a little bit more, and I think this is what everyone really wants to know, is when did you actually start making money, and what was it like for you to then, well, obviously you started small. It's not like you made $100K in a month on your first month. So in those earlier stages, and when you were first actually making money from Amazon, what were your thoughts and how did you feel?
Right. So I still remember the first day I got my sale. It's like, I don't know why, I just remember
everyone
things,
does.
But literally, I do. It's still marked on my brain. So June 15th, 2020. And I always like marking that date because that's 6 months from when I said I bought the course, right? And I feel like that's even from what we've seen in your course. I feel like it's longer than what a lot of people, when they first get their first sale, is, because like I told you guys, my first product, the sample came in, I had to wait for that, and it didn't really work out. So that kind of delayed me a little bit. So a lot of people even find they get their sales faster than 6 months, but I waited, and I was still diligent, and still had the same tenacity with the whole system, even 6 months in, just to show you how serious I was. And I had my product checked in, and I remember the first day it got checked in, it got a sale, and it was June 15th. I was walking at my job, just going through the motions, checked my phone, I refreshed it, and I saw the first sale, and I was like, yep, that's it. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to see. I'm scaling it up from there and running it up. And that was it, literally from June 15th. Got I think probably got like 2 sales that day, and then I ended the month around like 4K in revenue. So then started just picking up in sales. I sold through my first product within the next month. So I got June, and then was June, July. So by September, I had already sold through about 500 units. And I remember that because I didn't expect it to sell through so fast. So I didn't even have enough to stay in stock for Q4, which I was so sick about. But to me, it was like a good problem. So I'm like, wow, like I sold through more faster than I expected. And now I'm in a rush to get to more stocks and units, and also just, launch more products. So that was my first product. It sold through within like I think a month and a half. And then I was able to reap around like 10K total in revenue for all 500 units. So I was like super happy, super ecstatic. And I remember from then I was even more, I thought I was serious before, but then it was like, now everything was even more serious. Like I wanted to keep reinvesting my money. I don't think I spent it on anything. I didn't pull out any profits. I was like, if I was able to save up and that's another thing. So I saved up my stimulus checks from that year during the COVID pandemic to invest into my first product. So when I first invested all that money, I was like, okay, like that was the biggest investment I ever did, but I was so much more willing to invest my money, and I looked at money so much differently when I first made that flip, that I was like, okay, all my money is not, to be used for profit at all or for play money. I wanted to just make my income increase on a month-to-month basis. So I was just super excited about that during that time.
Yeah. It sounds like you had more of a vision for long-term gain with this business.
Right.
And so that first order really showed you what was possible. And I think that's a really healthy way to approach it. Everyone has their own reasons for doing this, and I don't judge anyone who just wants to make a little bit of money. Like, hey, I really need to pay off this credit card. If I can make the money to do that, that's all I need. And some don't really care about making it a long-term business, and that's anyone's business. Like, you're allowed to do whatever you want. I do think, though, at the point where like you are now, and we'll get to it in your business, you really look back and you can appreciate that you took a certain approach, and that you were, kind of looking more towards the future, and kind of that idea of delayed gratification. Like, yes, I can take my $2,500 profit, or I'm not sure what it was for that 10K in revenue, but I can take this chunk of money and I can go on vacation or buy a Gucci belt or do whatever I want with it, which is valid and fair, and we're all grown. You do what you want with it. But ultimately you start to see more, and I think that's kind of what you were describing, is how can I use this money to then grow it and make more? How can I continue to invest and build it up to something huge? And that way it doesn't matter how much I'm taking out for me. I'm able to sustain the business and grow it and still be able to more than live off of it, which is kind of, how things have gone. So
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think that people should, if you're listening, please don't take away any profit the first year. You'll definitely won't regret it, because if you're happy with that, like we're saying, that the future is where you'll really be the most happy, because you're able to scale so much faster, and money begets money. When you have more money, it's a lot easier to make it. So I always understood that if I could just if I can increase my cash flow, it'll be easier to just increase my cash flow, if that makes sense. Like, the more money I have, the easier for me to keep flipping it. So if you're just starting off, that's really the hardest part when you're first starting off. As you get more, it's way much easier. So you just have to make sure you have that foresight, and you won't regret it at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So we have a little bit of info on the numbers when you first started out. So then you placed your next order. You said that, did you completely miss Q4 that year?
I literally got in maybe like the last week of December, and I was like, well, whoever wants my product, still buy it. So I was like, damn, it has motivated me to stay on top of it until the next Q4, because I was super jealous. But I still saw good sales even after the whole Q4 wave. And I know people tried to say that, sales kind of go down after Q4 for a little bit, but I was still healthy sales and very evergreen. That's what I really loved about Amazon. It was very stable, so it allowed me to focus on growing on other products. And once you kind of make your listing robust, you can kind of almost set and forget it and just let it run. And that first product is still making me, around 8K at least a month. So it just shows you the longevity of putting in the work of in the front end.
Absolutely. That's a good point. I do get that question very often, like how often are you launching new products, or what happens when a product just isn't really making a lot of money anymore? Do you just leave it? How do you handle that? And so I know that, and because obviously Jay and I have known each other for years and both sell on Amazon, we've talked about it before, kind of the differences in our business. And I have 6 products that I sell on Amazon. I haven't launched a new product in probably about a year. And wow. Normally now when I'm even looking to launch products, it takes a lot for me to actively do that because I'm still doing so well off of those products I launched years ago. But I know that you sell more products than I do. So I think it'll just be good for everyone to kind of hear how many products roundabout are you selling and what are your numbers currently?
Right. So right now I sell about 21 products just to give you a different perspective. And then I'm around 80K a month right now.
Okay. Awesome. So you guys can kind of see that there are different ways to kind of add up to the numbers. And I feel like a lot of people have this vision, or maybe honestly like a fantasy, that they're going to have one product that's going to do 100K in a month.
Right.
And it's possible, but it's not likely. So
yes,
do you want to be realistic when you're kind of going into the business, so you don't set yourself up for failure by thinking, the norm is that I'm going to make 100K from one product. And there are some people who kind of have one main product that kind of carries their brand, and that's where the majority of their revenue comes from. And then they've got, little add-on products, little accessories that are kind of building up the brand so that it's a little bit more robust, but there's not one perfect way to make X amount of money in a month. So keep that in mind. Your first product might be the main thing that's driving the bulk of your income, or it might not. It might turn out that your second or your third product that you launch is really what's carrying the brand. So don't think that it's all or nothing. Think about your different products and your brand kind of working together to form that income at the end of the day. And it's a cumulative effort. It doesn't matter if you have one product that does 10K or if you have 5 products that do 10K, it's still 10K. So that's good to know.
I'm glad that you touched on that, because it's so much like that people need to understand with that no matter how, there's so many different ways to slice it. And the real goal is really to have that mindset and to understand how the framework works. Because even with my first product, I was ready for, if it only made me like 2K in revenue, I was ready to just take that concept and scale it up. And that's where I feel like the real value is understanding how to launch products effectively. And then from there, you're in control of how fast you want to grow, how much you want to grow, how much you want to take on. And that flexibility is really empowering, because you're able to, I felt more in control of my life, and I felt like I was promoting myself as I was launching more products, and I was building out my catalog. And you're right, like I have 1 or 2, I'll say 3 like flagship products that really push the business, and then other ancillary products that help get different customers from different spaces. And that's how I was able to grow my business. And it's cool to see how like we both can do it in different ways, because it just shows people that there's so many different ways to slice up this pie, honestly. So it should be like very encouraging for people to see that like there's so many different business models and so many different ways that people are doing it. That one, it should show that this is real and that people are doing it, and that 2, that you can do it your own way.
Right. Absolutely. When you learn a method of doing something, I kind of think about it like, well, maybe math isn't the best example, and I'm really bad at math, but I kind of think back to, being in class in college. There might be one way that a professor shows you that you can do this formula or whatever, and then you go on Khan Academy, or you have a friend that's like really good at whatever, and they show you another way to do it. it's there are multiple approaches to still get a positive result, and that is why I'm really grateful to have you as part of the program and as another coach, because it just goes to show that yes, I have a method that works, but Jay also has, an offshoot of the method. And yes, it follows the same principles, but there are just, different tweaks that you can make, and you use your creativity and you add things into your own strategy as you learn. But obviously you kind of need that baseline of something to work off of. And then from there you kind of build and you find your own style and you become more confident making those decisions in your business. And I even kind of think back to, it would have been 2020. And at that time in my program, I was doing one-on-one calls with the members as kind of part of your enrollment, because I really wanted to be involved and do everything I could to help. And I remember in those initial stages, and not just with you, there were a lot of students who wanted, input on very minuscule things. And it's obviously because you want to do it the right way. You paid for this education. You want to be able to, not make any mistakes along the way. But as time goes on, you start to realize okay, I can ask Abby, or I can ask my coach or my mentor or my mom. You can ask for opinions from anyone, but it's your business ultimately. And you have to, build up that confidence of making those decisions. And the only way the confidence builds is by making those decisions. It's an exercise. You have to practice, So I think that's
I agree.
Yeah.
I think especially in the early points, I remember when, we're just starting off and you definitely were doing the one-on-one calls, and you're so super on top of all of us. And I remember just feeling I don't know what was wrong. I was I just want to be so independent. I didn't want to have you spoon feed me everything. I just wanted to I feel like you gave me the tools, and I was I didn't want to depend on you. I remember just feeling that I don't want to have to feel like I'm waiting for her to tell me to do this or do that. I wanted to be so much in tune with what I'm doing with my business, and take what you gave me in terms of how you scaled up, and understand that I can't do the exact same. I can't launch the exact same business that you're doing. I can't launch the exact same product. So I need to have some sort of individuality and forwardness to take my business where I need it to go. And it's only up to me. And I think that's super important from what I've seen in the past 4 years, and just, and other people as well. So you need to have that spark within yourself to push yourself. I'm saying people can't lead a horse to drink. You have to take yourself there.
Yes, that's really important. And it's that concept of accountability and just having that ownership over your business, and, realizing, and obviously you have had a lot of success with this, and it's because of you. At the end of the day, yes, I provide education, I provide the material, but I didn't make you do anything. I didn't make you apply the knowledge, as much as, especially in those early days, I was so okay, what do you need? How can I help? A lot more involved, and obviously it was a much smaller group of people than what we have now. But it's still very easy for me to kind of see that. And, there's been so many people who have come through this program. There are different types of people who do this, and everyone's got kind of their own way of even approaching the content in the course. Some people finish it in a weekend. Other people take an entire month or even longer. And it doesn't mean that one person's going to be more successful than the other, but it's really about the application of everything. How are you going to use what you've learned to then, figure out, well, Abby does it this way. She says you should wait 3 months at least of consistent sales before you launch a new product. Maybe that works for most, but maybe there's something unique about my business. I don't really have the time to wait, or maybe I need to wait a little bit longer. And I even remember
major key.
Yeah, you've got to make those choices for yourself. And I remember we had a conversation years ago, probably in 2021, maybe 2022, but I was talking to you about your business. We were just kind of touching base after a while. And I asked you how everything was going. You're like, oh, I actually made another Amazon account. And I was like, what? You never told me that. But at the same time, I was proud, because I'm he knew what he needed to do and he did it. He didn't come to me and say, hey, do you think I should do this? Or, you took authority over it. And I think that is what differentiates, the people who go very far, and the people who have the longevity in the businesses, they're able to, you know, see what is needed and act on it. And I know for a lot of you, again, watching this, you're in the very beginning stages, but these are kind of the lessons that, you know, I've learned, that Jay has learned going through the process. And, you know, if we can let you know that ahead of time so that you don't maybe hesitate as much or get analysis paralysis picking a product, you might look back at this video or think about this video. I remember that, you know, Jay didn't ask Abby for every little thing, and he just kind of took the reins and did what he needed to do, and it got him very far. So I want to be able to help and to teach, but also empower anyone who's watching this to know that you can do it. And even if you are going into this on your own, maybe you're not part of a community, you don't have a program, it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. But, you know, you're just going to have to do more work on the back end, and it's still possible. So anyone watching this, you can do it. I did it. Jay's done it. Lots of other people have done it. So exactly as Jay said in the beginning, why can't it be you, you know? Okay. I can't remember what the last question I asked was. I do have more.
You were asked for the how much monthly revenue and how many products I was selling, and then it was like, that's where we're at. Okay,
cool. I could talk more about the Amazon stuff specifically, but just for a second, I want to ask about things outside of Amazon. So you were working at your 9-to-5. Can you tell us a little bit more about how things in your personal life, or like just life outside of business, changed when you started to make more money?
Right. That's a good question. I feel like I didn't really start. Well, I feel like I made the biggest impact when I decided to quit my job full time, and I think that was a year in. I felt like comfortable, and I had the income to do it, but I just wanted to make sure everything was safe before I just jump out the window. So I think that's why I felt like my life really started to feel like it's almost surreal, because I'm like, wow, like I'm not clocked in right now, and like everyone around me is clocked in, and like now it's just me. It's up to me to make sure that this is sustainable and that I didn't just jump out the window. My parents looking at me like, you know, you just got your whole grad degree and you're just not using it. Like, what are you doing? And I feel like that was right when I had to come to terms and grasp with what I was doing and what I wanted in life, and be brave, because especially back then, because I wasn't super, popping in terms of how much I'm making right now. So it's definitely like a very serious choice I had to make. But I felt like I knew what I was doing. I trusted myself, and I saw where everyone else was going. And I knew if I wanted a different lifestyle, I had to go this way. So I decided to really just double down on that. And I felt really good. I mean, I felt good having the time. First, the time freedom was really the luxury for me. It wasn't even I had good money. I was making more than what I was making in my job. But it was probably, I was making more than what I was making in my job. But it wasn't like super like, hey, I'm getting a nice little luxury apartment and doing all that. I was able to just live my life and able to just live on my own terms on my own time. And then as I had my time freedom, and I was able to utilize that time freedom to double down more on the business, which was super exponentially, lucrative, because now I could able to, do more product research, launch more products, dive deep into my PPC, dive deep into just my listings. And I saw the time effort really come to fruition as my sales start to increase from like 10K a month, 30K a month, 50K a month. And I'm like, okay, now this is where it starts to having fun. And I was able to, then I felt more comfortable pulling out profits, and I start to feel more and more comfortable. So I think that's what kind of came first, like that time freedom. And then I started feeling like, okay, I can start. It's evident now I'm able to, spend so much more on my friends and family, and pay for things, pay for dinners, start traveling more. All those stuff started to come, as I allowed myself to do it. But I think I was very just hard on myself, was making sure that, hey, this is sustainable, this is evergreen, I'm not making the wrong decision, saved up. And I was like, okay, you know, now that everything's good, let's go party. But
The look
that's where the
around is killing
luxury.
me.
Nah, literally, that's what I had to do. Because I'm like, yo, am I about to do this right now? I'm like, all right, let's do it. So once I decided to do that, like, it was such a great choice. I'm glad I did it because had I, you know, there's only so much you can do with, you know, after hours of work and you're exhausted. So I was able to just really kick up that first and second year because I doubled down.
Okay. So it sounds like in the beginning stages you were doing both, like most people do, and what you should, don't quit your job. Start selling on Amazon, guys,
yeah.
please. But you know, it's part of the struggle. It's like the growing pains of it all, you know, the time management, figuring out, you know, how bad do I actually not want to work this job anymore? Because if it's bad enough, I'm gonna create the time, you know, shift things around, reprioritize, and knowing that it's temporary, I think is also something that can be motivational. You know, you're not going to be doing product research for 3 hours a day for the rest of your life. You're not going to be up talking to suppliers every night at 12 a.m. for the rest of your life. It's a temporary sacrifice that you're making for a long-term gain. And I think that, you know, thinking through everything that it kind of takes, and again, that idea of sacrifice that you have to make, you don't have to think of it as something that is necessarily hard. Maybe it is for some people, maybe it's not. But when you have that perspective of the other ways that you can make money versus doing it this way, it starts to become less and less, this is so hard, rather than this is something that I have to understand, this is something that I have to learn and practice. But realistically, I mean, I can't imagine a world where I would prefer to go back to my 9-to-5 corporate job over what I'm doing now, or McDonald's, my first real job, or, you know, Forever 21 working in retail. I mean, everything else I've ever done in my life has been harder than what I'm doing now. Maybe it's because it's online and like you're at home, you get frustrated, but you're on your couch. Like how hard can it really
100%.
be? Yeah.
100%, yeah. Because my last job before I left that was another thing too. I was so annoying. It's very labor heavy. And I was like, wait a minute, I have a master's degree. It's so backwards. And they had me like, this is what they had me do. It was Cintas. It was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah,
It was like this uniform company. And they had me go into hospitals, cleaning up scrubs and stuff like that. I'm like, wait a minute, this is like a management role, but it was rotational. So they wanted me to go into the weeds of the work and do grassroots type stuff. I was like, yo, this is crazy. So it was very just labor intensive. And before that, you know, I did Macy's as well too as a sales manager. That was my first job out of college. But like you said, when I first started, you know, doing this full time, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of different. That's what it was. It was different. It's different from what you kind of expect. And it made me change my mindset on how money works and how we're supposed to get money. And once you're able to switch that, you start to realize like, wait, I don't need to feel guilty for not working hard to make money. You know what I'm saying? For not sweating to make money. It's like, wait a minute, it's just an object. If I could just create a system to make money, I don't need to put in sweat equity. And then once you have that understanding, it's like, oh, no, wait a minute, this doesn't have to be hard. I just have to be thorough and systematic. And it helped me to switch that mindset.
I like that. Thorough and systematic versus hard. Because, you know, getting asked that question every single day, is it hard? Can I really do it? It's always, I find different ways of explaining the difficulty, because that's all going to depend on the person and what you're used to and all of that. But you're right. It's a system. Obviously, there are different methods, but you do have to, you know certain things. What does well on Amazon? What factors make a product, you know, too competitive? What factors make a product more profitable in terms of the size and the weight? You know, there are all of these different things that kind of go into it that helps you build that unique product idea that's going to kind of start everything off. And it all has to start somewhere. So, you know, it's important to have a way to narrow things down. And then, you know, building from something that's already there is always easier than trying to build it from scratch, in my mind. And so 100%. Kind of just, having that rough like framework. This is what it's supposed to kind of look like. And then from there, you know, you make your own version of it, and then you go from kind of that initial idea. But it's interesting that you talk about kind of the mindset around money and the psychology with money, because we both are African. Jay is Nigerian, I'm from Ghana, and it was a very similar experience with, and I don't have a master's, but I can only imagine if I would have taken out more loans and gone to school for even longer, and then telling my African mama, like, I'm gonna sell stuff on Amazon. She just about lost it. She was like, you're not doing this to me again. Remember when you said you were gonna be an anthropology major?
Like, listen, it's 2024, all right? Those days are done. Oh, man.
Absolutely. And I love that you said the word brave, because I do think that starting out, and especially just with the amount of information that there is out there, you all who are watching this, you might understand the opportunity there is with e-commerce and with Amazon, but people in your life might not get it because they just don't know. They might say, oh, that doesn't sound right. You'll never make money, you know, all of these different opinions. And actually, while we're on that topic, did you experience that at all? I know you said you kind of kept it to yourself in the beginning, but what did people think about what you were doing?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of haters. Definitely a lot of haters at first. Like, a lot of the haters in terms of like, and they come in all shapes and forms, because they'll be like, you know, they'll be the passive aggressive haters. They'll be like, oh, that's, you know, that's cool what I'm saying. Like, you know, is that going to be enough to, you know, pay rent? Or, you know, say you selling what? Or, you know, you doing that? Or it'll be like, oh, you're drop shipping. They'll just, you know, put it into a box and it's like, no, I'm not really doing drop shipping, but okay. And then there'll be the ones that, you know, and then a lot of times the parents or, you know, people in my family will be like, okay, that's good. That's cute. I love that you're doing that. But don't forget about your job, and don't forget about, you know, going to, I'm like, okay, clearly you don't get the whole mindset and what I'm trying to get into. So I definitely had to protect my psyche and protect my mission from, you know, outside opinions, because only you know what you're going. They didn't take the course with you. They don't know what you're feeling. They don't know what you want for your life. So you can't have someone else put their own expectations of what life should be on you, because that's what you're subscribing to. I'm not subscribing to that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to definitely protect your psyche heavy on that, because it's very easy to just fall into the mainstream of, and that's not to say that what they're doing is wrong, but that's what they want for themselves, and they're just trying to look out for you because that's what they best know. That's what parents do. They try to protect us by telling us what they know. But at a certain point, we have to graduate from what's been given to us and give yourself what you need, and that's what I decided to do.
Right. It's very relatable. I think, you know, everyone has different people around them, and some people may be supportive, some people might not, due to ignorance, due to projecting their own insecurities. There are so many reasons why someone might not get it, but what you said is really important, that it's your life, and these are the things that, you know, you have in your mind about the lifestyle that you want, or the freedom that you want, and what you want to do for other people. And so ultimately, a lot of these people do come back around. Have you had an experience like that?
Every single last one. I don't think anyone in my circle hasn't reached out to me to learn, and I expect them to, and I love that, because like that's another thing that really motivated me too. Because like I saw not only where I was, but I didn't know anyone in that space, you know, in the space of like, you know, being financially healthy, or just being, or not even if they were financially healthy, that came with, you know, a very taxing lifestyle. So I wanted to be able to provide a different avenue of wealth and socioeconomic mobility. I wanted to learn and really do it for myself so I could help others. I feel like that definitely pushed me a lot, because there was no one I was really jealous of. So I was like, I want to be able to give people what I've given myself. And I feel like I've always been like that. And I'm always super embracive for people who want to just learn, because that's how I am. And people have definitely turned around. Roommates, friends have all asked, and have all gotten into it. And even if they don't take it to the furthest level that I want them to yet, they're still like either tiptoeing towards it, or either taking it and changing their mindset on money or freedom, on how they can live their lives, and also how they can just, you know, reach their own dreams. If it's not, you know, going after Amazon, maybe it's something else they wanted to pursue. But seeing me coming from like, you know, what I wanted to do, and how committed I was 4 years ago and where I am now, I definitely feel like it's helped empower everyone around me to go after what they want, even if it's Amazon, if it's, you know, traveling, or just becoming the influencer that they want to be. I love that piece of it right now, because I'm not here to like shove in people's faces. I just want to just help people see that if it's possible for me, we can all do better for ourselves, and it's up to us to do better for ourselves.
Absolutely. I think it's really a beautiful thing to see so many people who, you know, didn't necessarily have that silver spoon, so to speak, or
Right.
the resources that it takes. A lot of people who make it, even as far as we've gotten in business, a lot of them didn't make it on their own. And obviously, you know, we all have our privileges in different ways. We both went to college. Some people, you know,
Right.
weren't able to do so. We both were able to save enough money from our 9 to 5s or stimulus check or whatever to
100%.
start the business. So when you think about it,
Hmm.
we all have certain things that, you know, can kind of benefit us. And then you look at others who might not necessarily have all of the pieces. It just goes to show that you really have to work with what you have. And even if you're not in the perfect position right now, maybe you don't have $3,000 sitting there for your first Amazon product, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you have a couple extra steps before you can get to that point where you're buying the product. It doesn't stop you from doing your product research. It doesn't stop you from, you know, putting action behind it. It's just that now, you know, you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit more. Now you have to, you know, do Instacart for a couple months, or, you know, pick up some side gigs temporarily. Again, it's that delayed gratification. You're doing what you need to do. You're giving up, you know, certain things now for that life that you deserve and the life that you really want ultimately. But it's not going to happen by itself. And I think that that's a big
Heavy on that.
piece of it too. Um,
Heavy.
and a part that
Yeah,
can
I would
be,
definitely say that. No, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Go
no,
ahead.
you're good. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that, like, yeah, like definitely on the mindset piece. I feel like even like I saved up my stimulus checks. I feel like for people who need a little more steps before they can have that, you know, initial investment, I feel like the most important thing before you even have that capital investment is like once you have that mindset. I feel like the money's gonna come for you to have that seed money. It's once you set that mindset, like you'll be a lot more intentional first off in saving your money, and you know how serious you are, and you'll get to that point to be able to invest, because I know people who really wanted to get into it, and you know, like one of my little brother, like I even fronted him his first few dollars just so he can invest in. Once I saw how serious he was, because I feel like that's the key thing that I'm looking for. I feel like the money thing is like a temporary obstacle, but if you can get your mindset to really understand what you want to give yourself and what you're ready to commit to, then that's the real gem, that's the real value, that's the real necessity. And once you have that, you know, money's not going to stop you.
Absolutely. It takes time to grasp kind of the learnings around money mindset, especially if you
Right.
grew up limited in, you know, the things that you had, and if you don't have people around you who are able to teach you and show you the way. It can be difficult because you're kind of learning as you go. You're learning the business, but then you're also learning the money management aspect of it and what it means to actually suddenly be in a completely different tax bracket, well, maybe not suddenly, but you know, you work your way up, and then you know,
Right.
there are different milestones or maybe different things that are personal to you that puts you even like mentally into that next category, even if it's not literally your tax bracket. It could just be like, wow, I never thought I'd be able to own a home. I never thought I'd be able to
Right.
buy a new car, or, you know, take this trip or eat at this restaurant, whatever it is. It kind of just shows you that anything is possible. And just because you grew up one way or you've experienced life, you know, through a certain box or a certain limitation, that you can't break your way out of it. And a really significant, maybe not a quote, but statistic, and just something that has always stuck with me, is that children normally just go into the same kind of financial class or socioeconomic status as their parents. And in my head, I'm like,
Mhm.
when you think about that, that's really discouraging, because what is being told to you is that
Right.
you don't have a good chance of being any better off than where you came from. And I think that to be able to see past that and know that, yeah, maybe that's what the statistic is, but you don't have to be a statistic. You can take matters into your own hands and, you know, really do everything you can to change your situation so that you can start, you know, a new trend. If that really is the statistic and now you're in a good financial position, you have essentially broken a generational curse, and now your kid, and I know not everyone wants them, but I'm just saying, for the sake of changing trends and making improvements to your own family, even if it's not your own child, but the people that you love and the people that are your chosen family, whoever you have around you, by proximity, you doing what you're telling yourself you're capable of, you are enriching the lives of the people that you have around you. And that makes you even better. It makes you even more motivated to keep on going. With all that being said,
on that because like I just wanted to touch on that because you definitely spoke a lot of facts just now, and it's definitely it's a very passionate part of me because like literally like, you know, we're both immigrants, so like I remember like, you know, moving from New York, moving from New Jersey, you know, 1-bedroom apartment, 6 people in there, you know, EOF, definitely not silver spoon at all. So it just being from, I've seen my family and come from like the bottom of a socioeconomic class to now seeing where I am now, and that switch, that transition, that pivot is so interesting to see how my mindset that from my upbringing to where I need to kind of change all that for everyone. You know what I'm saying? And showing people that we don't like the whole sweat equity thing, and just like, you know, my mom now tells me she wants to run a business now and do her own cooking thing. And I love how like, people are trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like just changing their mindset and seeing like how we can give ourselves what we want in this life and we don't have to suffer. And like, I just love that piece because I feel like your parents, they kind of, or whoever your guardians are, whoever's helped you out in life can only take you so far and have you on just, you know, them teaching you all that they can from what they got. And at a certain point, you have to understand you carry the torch for your family, for your dynasty, and you have to now make that pivot to make a better generational, you know, life for your future and for your kids, so that you can give them the better tools and, hey, this is how you should approach life. This is how you can make money for yourself. And that switch I watched as I became like that beacon of light to show people that way. Like, for example, it was such a super pleasure of mine. Like when my parents, I think their HVAC broke like a month ago or so, and the first person that they called was me. And, you know, the person was quoting them like $12,000 to pay for it. And like, you know, I sent to them immediately. So just being able to do that and the gratitude that they showed for doing that, it hits different because it has pushed them even further to be like, wow, like I made the right decision. I gave the tools of what I took what they gave me, the baton, and ran with it. And that's the only thing that you can, I guess that's what a lot of people hope to do for what their parents do for you, you know? So that's kind of like one of my biggest motivations.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Nah, literally like that definitely helped. That definitely warmed my heart when I did that, just because like it made me just look at myself like, damn, like I really did that. Like,
right. And you know, it's so cool to be able to have that validation. Like, you know, I think that when you're experiencing life the way you want to live it, like you're getting to travel and do all these things, that's amazing and you should do it. It is very much a different feeling when you're able to help people on a small scale or a big scale. I mean, that's huge. You kind of think about what would have happened if I wasn't in this position. And I think sometimes there is a little bit of that pressure piece, which, you know, is healthy. And I think it's normal to kind of feel both sides of it. But at the same time,
right,
it's still incredible to just even be in a position that they know that they can call you for that you even would have it theoretically, to be able to, you know, kind of help them out in that way. And it's a necessity. It's not like it's something frivolous, like, can we have $12K to go on vacation? That's one thing, which is great.
We just throwing out $12,000 every now and then. $8 so.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. With all of that being said, this is what I was going to ask before. What was, and I know it can be hard to like pinpoint a moment, but was there a certain like payout that you got or a certain thing that you were able to afford that really was that like next level moment for you? I know there's like different levels to it because I've experienced it too, but
yeah, I definitely so I think my first time having that feeling was this a small, just to give people like just from the bottom up, like I remember that feeling when I first was able to pay off like just my credit card. I was like, oh, my credit card, I'm clean. I got no, my credit score about to go up. The simple stuff like that, like wow, cleared out my credit card like that. To being, I remember feeling like when I first got my new car, like even if it was like just a Honda, but like I felt so happy that I was able to pay for my own car. I didn't have to ask my dad for a down payment. Didn't have to do anything like that. Another milestone I feel like would be just being able to pay for trips and just just not having to be so budget conscious, conscious, and not having to look into my bank account every single second. I think those little that's a good point you mentioned, because each step is like a different, like wow, like I'm doing that now, like oh, like this is happening now. So it's so rewarding as you watch yourself scale up. And yeah, I've just been seeing my payouts increase and watching my lifestyle change. I feel like I'm kind of like I don't want to say I'm frugal, but I'm a little bit hesitant to make super heavy purchases.
Yeah.
But for me, I really enjoy like the lifestyle changes of me being able to not have to think about, okay, like I'm only gonna do one trip this year. It's like nah, like I'm just gonna do this year, or do this month, or do this over there. Like I don't have to think about it. I love that's my luxury, not having to worry and not having to budget so stringently.
Right. That's a really good point, and it's not an overnight thing or like in a snap suddenly you have all of these new things that are part of your life. It's something that you kind of work your way up to, and I do think that's the responsible way to approach it, because it would be very easy to get a nice fat little payout from Amazon, a 10K or 20K to just be direct deposited. I mean, not everyone would have the restraint to think, how can I be responsible with this? How can I, make sure that I can sustain this before I just ball out and start doing the most? And I think that you've done, especially again from like what I've seen, a good job kind of taking those steps and not even necessarily going slowly, but moving responsibly. Like, how can I enjoy my life, but still do the things that make sense? Like I remember you were still at your corporate job, even though you didn't necessarily need to be, but you were like, it makes sense for me right now. I get health insurance. It's fine for me for now. And then you graduate to the point where you're like, okay, I don't need this anymore. I can, go without. So it's interesting how you kind of incorporate new things into your life and then you let certain things go as you move through it. But I am curious to know, what do you see? And we talked about it just a little bit before the call, so this might be a little repetitive for you, but moving into the future, kind of rest of 2024 and beyond, what are you seeing for your business ideally, and how do you plan to get there?
So yeah, it's a great question. I feel like at this point, I'm still very excited in just reinvesting in my business and reinvesting my profits in my business. I feel like that also like my luxury spending way. I like seeing me. At this point, I like taking these endeavors I wouldn't take before, putting money into it, and seeing how fruitful they come. I feel like that's my new like fun thing to do now. So I feel like I want to just, my goal, I want to have like a milli just sitting in my account just to look at, what I'm saying? I want to have $1 million just sitting there. So that's where my mindset is for 2024. And right now I'm just focused on doing more, because another thing too, once you start into Amazon and you get more money, you realize there's so many different ways to slice up the pie, so many different ways to make money in this space that you start to, you start to be like, like this, like people should, I wish people could understand that. Like, there's so many different ways to get into. So I'm trying to expand in, I've already been running Shopify, so that's been making me money consistently for 2 years now. So I'm trying to build out on that, influencer marketing, TikTok shop, even this, like I said, I'm back into stocks now. So I've been, trading more and more frequently. So like I said, as you get more money and you have more money, it's easier to make money. So I'm so much more excited about that and how how I'm able to go into different spaces easier now because I have that, and I can get more support, hire more education and stuff like that. So that's really my goals for 2024, because I'll keep reiterating. I feel like your first 10,000 is your hardest 10,000, and after that, it's just like, you have the mindset first off, and you have the education, and also you have the confidence and courage to go after these different endeavors. And then you start to see like, oh, they're doing that over there. They're making that much over there. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. If you can do this, if you can do that, it empowers you to be like, nothing is outside of your grasp in this life. And then like, you take it from there. It depends on what you really want to do. So that's what I'm trying to do. Explore myself and explore how else I want to grow my money.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think having goals that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Quantitative and qualitative is important. Everyone has the things that kind of motivate them. And for a lot of business people, it's like straight up numbers. Like, I want to make $1 million. I want 100K a month. I want X, Y, and Z, which is great. But ultimately, that alone is not going to motivate you forever, because those are just numbers. They're just figures. So kind of thinking through more like, how can I diversify my streams of income? How can I continue to enjoy my life and bless other people? Those are the things that I think are stronger motivators once you get to the point where you're making enough money that you're comfortable. Of course, like theoretically, we would all want more. It's the American way, ain't it? But ultimately, it's like, okay, at a certain point, you know that you at least have enough to enjoy your life. So what else can drive me outside of just, I want X amount of dollars? And you're absolutely right. That first 10K is always going to be the hardest. It's just kind of like starting at a new job or a new school or taking a class for the first time. You have to get an understanding and you build momentum. I think that that's always what I kind of come back to when I think about the journey in business. And with Amazon specifically, it's like starting and then just getting the ball rolling is the hardest part for everyone. It's, making that commitment. I love how you talked about that contract with yourself. Like, no one is going to sit there and tell you, whisper in your ear at night, do your product research. I might post it in the Facebook group in the course, but I can't make you do it. No one is going to be a stronger motivator than yourself, and your reasons for wanting to do it will kind of drive it, but you have to do it. And so I think what I see the most from kind of like your journey and your story is just the action piece. Like, you did it. You didn't just sit there and think about it until the end of time. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that thought process of all of the obstacles, which many of them are not, they're so mental rather than actual tangible things that are stopping you, that, you really have to be able to push through it. You don't ignore it. Yes, you might have your concerns. Yes, you might be afraid of failure. Yes, theoretically, your first product might make you $0. We're not saying that it's going to be perfect all the way through, because perfection is not real. But ultimately, it's that action of actually putting in the effort, actually, downloading Helium-10, actually looking at products, actually, having a logo made. All of these are just tiny steps that are going to get you closer to your goal. And thinking about it is not going to change anything. Change happens when something causes it to happen.
That is a real battle with yourself, and that mental blockade of just you not thinking that you can do it. Like, once you can defeat that, like, everything starts to piece together. You have to like get through that mental blockade of whatever is stopping you from giving yourself what you need to exceed.
Absolutely. Do you have any other words of wisdom? You were speaking facts just before this, so I was like, yeah, that's exactly where I'm going with it.
Listen,
as a
words of
seasoned
advice,
Amazon
like,
seller, yes.
Oh
wait. Before we get there, sorry if I interrupted your thought process. Can you let the people know what your highest month was, or highest year, whatever you want to share, just to give that extra little motivation, because y'all can do
I
it.
got you. Of course. That always motivates. My highest month was 205, 205,000. That was like 3 months ago. 3 or 4 months ago. So 205,000. Ended last year, my highest year of like a million, 1.2, I believe. So 1.2 million for Amazon. So just to show you, and you know, that's even, like I said, once you start growing, you can expand to other things. You know, I still have Shopify, you know, still Walmart. So there's so many different ways that, you know, once you get your foundation and get your stride, like there's so many different ways to slice the pie, guys. And so just keep that in mind. So it gets more fun. It gets more fun.
And I can already see people typing in the comments metaphorically, how much of that was profit? If you can give us like a percentage,
how
what
much
your
was that
margins
profit?
are.
So my profit margin is like 35%.
Okay. So for anyone who's listening, who's like, well, dollar amount, you just take 35% of that total number. If you're wanting to use a calculator, you put 0.35, multiply it by 200K or a million. That's how much he made. A million's kind of easy. It's like 350K. In profits, which is not too shabby. It's giving CEO salary. Come on now.
Period.
Love that.
Only more to come. I can't wait for each year. It gets better. Each year it's been climbing. There's never been like a slow year. It's never been like a year that was worse than the other. So I think that's also motivates me. It's like the more I put in, the more I get out. So you know what that means.
Love it. Okay. I know I interrupted you. Any final like words of wisdom or any thoughts?
I would say final thoughts is just to, I like the point where you said that, you know, sometimes the dollar amount might not be a good enough motivator for some people. So I feel like what also helped motivate me was also just, there was an idea of the person I wanted to become and who I wanted to be to my community. And I feel like sometimes that's a good motivator for people who don't really, are not, you know, super capitalistic or money hungry, but like you empowering yourself and learning these skills and taking yourself to a different place that maybe other people in your community haven't been yet is going to be like the effects of that is going to be so, it's going to be so much more multiplied as you grow. And that's going to be enough of a motivator. And that should be enough of a motivator for you to continue to pursue this process and grow for your own self-development, but also for the people around you and also for your future generations. Because that's another thing that makes me just want to keep learning more as I get into this space, because I know that this knowledge is not only good for me, but I'm going to pass it down to my future generations. They won't have to be skeptical about the things I was skeptical about, or, you know, I'll make all the mistakes for them already, and I'll have all these different experiences already so they can be on a whole different pedestal, with a whole different mindset when they're launched at. And like they're going to take the baton and run circles around me. So that really is motivating to me.
That's amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I think that this has definitely even opened up my mind a lot to just kind of more of your journey, because I've kind of like been here through it, but at the same time, you've had all of these experiences just kind of on your own as you've been learning and taking some of the same steps I did, and your own, you know, doing your own thing and figuring out your own way. So it's been really cool just for me to kind of hear more about the details, and hopefully this has been informative, inspiring in some way for anyone who is watching this. And that's really all I got. I know the second we end, I'm going to think of one. I'm like, that was the last question.
That's how it be. But I definitely want to take this last minute to definitely give you your flowers as well, too, because like you've created an empire. I'm saying you've created a safe space where people can grow and empower themselves and learn for themselves. And you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to create a course. You could have just been making your own millions and just moving on with life. But you decided to really empower the community. And there's not a lot of faces like you in the space. There's not a lot of people like you in the space who give such valuable content for free and just stay committed with your students. And I've seen firsthand how passionate you are with your students and how much you really care for people to succeed. And I love that for you. And I feel like people who are looking for a coach are going to find a good one when they find you. So just keep doing what you're doing, honestly.
Aw, thanks, Jay.
Oh God.
I did not pay him to say that, guys.
Nah, she really didn't.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you gotta put those disclaimers now. Oh, he told her to say that. Nah, like that's what it is.
Jay is a real
Trust
person.
me, myself.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think this will be valuable to anyone who watches. And I'll just go ahead and close out the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Peace.